Well, it's a trendy Brooklyn neighborhood now, but 4 decades ago, it was the scene of an infamous mob hit, a brutal assassination, and pivotal moment for organized crime in the city. Tonight, we're taking a look back to when it happened, a hot summer day in 1979. I've been working the case for my true crime podcast, The Tape Room.
It was one of the major gangland executions of recent decades, and yet most of the people around here didn't know who the big man was.
How can you know your neighborhood if you don't know its secrets?
So it ended here in the backyard of a Brooklyn restaurant. Carmine Galante was the victim of a few men with guns.
Bushwick, Brooklyn, July 1979.
The reputed boss of bosses in organized crime, Carmine Galante, was assassinated today.
It happened on the back patio of a little Italian restaurant called Joe and Mary's on Knickerbocker Avenue.
The executioners opened fire.
Carmine Galante. He was head of the Bonanno crime family, known as the Cigar. He was widely feared for his cruelty.
It is believed that the hit ultimately on Galante was a joint operation between a faction of the Bonanno family and the Gambinos.
A brutal killing, the assassins entering the cafe, shooting the 69-year-old Galante and 2 of his men as they ate lunch. Tomato salad and wine still on the table after the hail of bullets, one through Galante's eye. His famed cigar still clenched between his teeth.
Then we heard the news that Galante was killed.
41 years later, we're back in the neighborhood, the heart of Brooklyn, located a few minutes' walk from the L train. And we found her. She was there that day when it all happened.
I was coming from the park with my daughter. She was only about 3 or 4 years old. And I heard like some boom, boom, and I crossed the street.
The same street we're standing on now, where those crowds gathered that sweltering July afternoon. Those same fire escapes where people came to see what's considered a classic gangland murder, now the backsides of $2,100 a month studio apartments.
That's wild.
Kat is the bartender at 3 Diamond Door, where a wide selection of beer is on tap, and stories about what happened a few doors down at what was Joe and Mary's is barely a memory.
People come in and tell that story, and they tell their own version of it. A lot of times people like to say that it's here, and then they like to have a drink here, but yeah, it was next door.
You could see your window in one of those shots.
Yeah, I'm in the front there, where I think another lady was looking out.
Wes Davis lives in the building. The old cafe, now just storage. The street more likely to have a boutique pet store these days than tales about mob wars.
It's a crazy time in New York.
The neighborhood here, once heavily Italian-American, had already been changing. It's now a reflection of modern city life.
It's very mixed now. Neighborhoods just, they change so fast here.
We still got the cigar in his mouth here.
Jeff Schumacher is the senior director of content at the Mob Museum in Las Vegas. He says at the time, Galante's murder was likely the result of his own ambitions.
He really saw himself as becoming the boss of bosses, and he was not a well-liked individual. Not only did the commission not want Galante to become head of the Bonanno crime family, they certainly did not want him to become the boss of bosses. So it was determined that it was time for him to go. The Galante murder really opened and sort of accelerated federal efforts to go after this heroin smuggling ring. And ultimately, a couple of years later, you had a mass of arrests of mafia individuals who were involved in the heroin ring.
A story from long ago in a city where just about every neighborhood has secrets.
I feel like it's just never ending. There must be so many layers that we don't know or think about, and it's funny how that happened right next door and no one knows it.
And according to the Mob Museum, of the multiple people thought to have planned and carried out Galante's murder, only one was ever brought to justice. Bruno Indelicato was convicted at the Mafia Commission trial in 1986. He served 19 years in prison. Today, he's back in prison on another Bonanno crime family murder. If you have a case for The Tape Room, email us, thetapiroompodcast@foxtv.com.